The Tren de Aragua, one of the most dangerous criminal groups in Latin America, has made its way into the United States, especially in Colorado. They're affecting these communities and our neighborhoods, known for their human trafficking, extortion, and drug smuggling. These gangs are not only affecting the public safety, but also they're tearing the social fabric of our neighborhoods. So that's why today we are sitting here with Congressman Greg Lopez from Colorado to understand this issue and also to get to know how the Congress is taking measures to protect those most at risk. So Congressman Greg Lopez from Colorado, thank you so much for joining us again. It's a pleasure to have you back.
No, it's my pleasure to be with you today.
So Congressman, tell us, how widespread is the influence of Tren de Aragua in Colorado?
You know, it's very wide. You know, it's like a cancer. You know, they started in Aurora, Colorado, and they're starting to spread in other communities. And it's really a very concerning issue, while our governor and the mayors are denying that they exist because they don't want to create fear in the public. They are there. And they are terrorizing our communities. They have authorized, within the gang, it's been told that they have authorized them to shoot at police officers. And the police officers, of course, are hesitant to respond to calls, not only because they can get shot at, and it has happened before, but also because in Colorado, under the defund the police, the voters took away their ability to have immunity. So if they do something that someone may say it's not appropriate, they could get personally sued. And then they have to pay the lawsuit on their behalf. So, you know, it's really dangerous in Colorado right now as it pertains to that gang. I mean, look, we all know it's a prison gang. We all know that they're not here in America to work. They're in America to take advantage of the drug trafficking, the sex trafficking, all of the things that they've been known to do. They're just expanding their business into America.
When do you think it started coming into Colorado, this gang?
You know, I would say, look, I think really it's probably started the year after President Biden took office, when all of a sudden the border was open, and all of a sudden people realized that all they had to do was claim that they were seeking asylum, and they would get a pass, you know, basically a notice, show up to court 7 months from now, a year from now, and they don't have to show up to court because no one's going to go after them. I think that's what allowed the cartel to recognize, you know what, we can bring our foot soldiers, we can bring those gangs into America. And fentanyl is one of the biggest drugs in Colorado right now, and it's killing a number of individuals because of the overdose. But I really think it started when the border became a wide open border, and people were coming in thousands, and hundreds of thousands have crossed into America in the last 3 years.
And why do you think Colorado has been one of the most, let's say, widespread places where this gang?
Well, I'm going to tell you, look, it's because of the governor Polis of Colorado and the mayor of Denver, Mayor Johnson, because the governor declared Colorado a sanctuary state, and the mayor declared Denver as a sanctuary city. So what that means is that if anybody, the police officers are not allowed to share information with the federal government. They're not allowed to share information about criminals that they've stopped that are illegal. They can't share any of that information. So it's kind of like a safe haven. And so that's what's causing Colorado to be kind of like a magnet. It's because it is a sanctuary state and Denver is a sanctuary city. But the NGOs, the non-government organizations that are claiming that they're helping, you know, immigrants that want to come to America because they're fearful for their lives in their homeland, they're the ones that are also funneling these people, because no one's doing a background check. No one's asking them why they're here. They just bring them over.
So as a congressman, have you heard stories of your constituents being affected by this criminal gangs, especially within the Hispanic community?
Yeah, look, you saw in the videos, you saw it, across the nation, that you had these Venezuelan gangs carrying guns, openly in the apartment complexes, right? And they're knocking on doors and they're collecting rent. They're beating up the landlords that are overseeing those apartments, and they've literally taken over control of those institutions. And so I've had individuals tell me, look, we don't say anything because we understand what they're capable of doing. We left Venezuela because a lot of them, and we came to America thinking we would be safe, and now they're here. They basically have followed us, and they're predators amongst our own community because they know the Hispanic community is fearful because they know their reputation.
And you've been also in contact with Border Patrol. Can you tell us what did they tell you about this situation?
Yes, you know what? When I was running for Congress, of course, the border is a major issue. It was a major issue in the election. So I went down to the southern border in Texas and personally witnessed the number of people that were coming. And I was told by the Border Patrol officers, I said, look, you need to understand something. Our resources, our network, and our assets are telling us that the Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, is decided that Colorado is going to be their headquarters. That's where they're sending all their foot soldiers, because they're going to expand from Colorado across the nation. And now they're in 16 different states across America, and they're expanding through Colorado. And so they see it as we're in the middle of the nation, right, as it pertains to our country. And we have all the major highways. Highway 70 goes all the way across the entire United States. It runs right through Colorado. I-25 runs up and north from Mexico all the way up to Canada. So it's major thoroughfares that they can get people all over the world, all over our nation.
And the Hispanic community is often the victim of these criminal gangs. So how, from Congress, how can they ensure that these people are protected and supported?
What I did is I introduced a bill, okay, in Congress that said, you know what, if we recognize or we find out that an illegal alien is a member of Tren de Aragua, we're just going to deport them. We're going to detain them, we're going to hold them, and then we're going to deport them. We're not going to ask, why are you here? We can identify them through their tattoos, we can identify them through their relationships with others. And so I pushed a bill to say, you know what, those are the first people we should get out of here, are the criminal elements. Because we have a lot of people that just want to come and do a better life. But right now, we don't know who they are because we're not keeping track of who's crossing the border. And so I think the sooner we can go after the criminal element, Tren de Aragua, and let them know that we're not going to tolerate their criminal activity, I think that's the only way we're going to start bringing some type of safety into the minds of the Hispanic community.
And how much support did you get from Congress members when you?
Well, I can tell you this. I think everybody was everybody's supportive of it, right? There's a number of bills. However, everybody was waiting for the election. Right? Now that President Trump got elected, we feel very strongly that he is going to focus on the border. He's going to focus on not only closing the border and finishing that wall, but he's also going to start focusing on deporting people that are criminals, that are creating criminal activities and creating that fear within our communities. Because, in America, you're not supposed to be afraid living in your community. I mean, that's the fabric of what makes America great, is a community spirit. And when you fracture that, and people are afraid to go out at night, they're afraid to go to the parks, they're afraid to just go shopping, that's really not what we want America to be, and that's what they're turning it into.
So for these bills, did you have bipartisan support?
Oh yeah. Look, everybody understands the crisis that we're in, and we are in a crisis, right? The question is, when too many of my colleagues in Congress, they always like to put politics in front of people, and I put people in front of politics. And so there's more people that are more interested in getting reelected, right, in the November election. So even though I introduced it in September, everybody was like, well, I got to make sure I come back, so we'll pick it up when we get back. But now they're looking at 2025. They're not looking at finishing the work of 2024. And so I'm looking for individuals to carry that bill forward into 2025.
Can you tell us a little bit more about who has supported your bill?
Well, predominantly, I have bipartisan support from people in Colorado, right? I also have bipartisan support from others in Texas. Look, they recognize that it's an important issue. Even some of the members from New York, are like, we see it up in New York. We're understanding it's happening. So, every state now is a border state. It's not just the states that are adjacent to the border itself. And so people are starting to understand we got to do something about it. Now that we know who our president's going to be for the next 4 years, I think you're going to see a lot of aggressive action to pass those types of legislation.
And beyond law enforcement measures, what resources or social programs do you think are needed to empower these communities to prevent them from falling into the Tren de Aragua's network?
It's like any community. Look, we don't need to do anything special. Look, we know how to patrol our communities. We know how to protect people. In Colorado, unfortunately, the legislature decided to handcuff the police officers. They basically have to question whether they're going to go into an area, because if someone says they use excessive force, if someone says that they shouldn't have held somebody longer than what they did, they could get sued. And so they're really reluctant to do this. And even in Denver, because of their lack of foresight, they lost a lot of police officers, and they just passed a bill. They passed a measure, I guess you should say, the people of Denver, where they're going to hire non-citizens to be in the police department. Now, you talk about opening Pandora's box, that for all we know is someone from the Venezuelan gangs going to apply to be a police officer and get through the system, and all of a sudden they have the patrol car, they have the weapons, they have the uniform. Talk about creating really chaos in a community. And this is what the city of Denver is doing, and this is under a mayor that believes his city should be a sanctuary city, and no one's saying much about it.
How are Hispanic communities feeling about this?
Well, I can tell you, it just passed. Well, I can tell you this: it passed in this last election. The most populated communities of Hispanics in the Denver city voted against it. They voted against it, but it passed. I think it passed by 4,000 votes. So right now the city's trying to figure out how we're going to do this, and how are we going to give assurance to the Hispanic communities that voted against this, that this is a good thing for us to do.
It also takes the work of community leaders, Hispanic community leaders that come forth and talk about this. But
I'm going to tell you, the community leaders do not trust the government, because the governor said when it first came out, he said, this is all in your imagination. And this was a councilwoman from the city of Aurora that exposed this. And the governor said, this is all in your imagination. The mayor of Aurora said, this is not happening. This is not happening in my community. And so did the city of Denver, until that videotape showed up that actually showed Venezuelan gangs with guns in their hands knocking on apartment doors, and people seeing that. You don't see this in America. There was not one, there was like 6 of them. And so until that video came out, then they had to backtrack and say, okay, there is some stuff happening, but it's not as bad as you think. Okay, so again, they're trying to soft pedal what's actually happening in these communities, and that's just morally wrong. That's lack of leadership. That's lack of being a public servant to protect those citizens, and I think people don't trust them anymore. So it's going to be a long road before the Hispanic community truly believes that someone actually cares about their kids and cares about their livelihood before they feel safe again.
So how do you think they will feel now that there's a new president elected? He's been very outspoken, as you said. President Donald Trump said that the first thing he's going to do is taking care of the enforce a national emergency to take care of the illegal immigrants, beginning with the criminals. So do you think that will give them, the Hispanic community, more hope or feel a little bit more heard?
I think, no, look, I'm going to tell you the Hispanic community recognizes that this prison gang from Venezuela, they could care less who your children are, who your wife is. They're going to be committed to do what they need to do. You know, and so they're brutals. These are like savage dogs that they could care less about their neighbors. They're trying to take over territories. They're trying to take over communities and have a stronghold to create fear. Now that President Trump got elected, I think as soon as they start seeing the buses or they start seeing the arrest, as soon as they start seeing people actually being deported, that's going to be the trigger that is going to say, okay, you know what? It is going to get safer. And I'm here to tell you that it's my understanding that Colorado will be one of the first states that's going to experience that, you know, and rightfully so, because that is the headquarters of what Tren de Aragua is doing across the nation.
Is there any numbers that you have seen of the of this criminal gangs taking over Colorado? Do you have an estimate?
We don't have numbers, right, to say, hey, the gangs X amount of big, right? What we do know, and again, people are being very cautious as to sharing these numbers. I mean, just like any gang, right? Whether it's the Bloods or the Crips, or we don't know how many. We just know their criminal activity, right? And we know that you can connect the criminal activity with other communities. And so I can tell you that one is too many, as far as I'm concerned, in Colorado. But I would say, as a educated guess, at least 200 are in Colorado right now as we speak.
Mm-hmm. And Congressman, for people that are hearing about this issue for the first time, can you explain to us, why is this matter important and why do people need to demand solutions?
Well, look, you know what? In America, I think people come to America because they believe in freedom. They believe that they will be able to create their own dream, achieve whatever success they want. They come from nations that have been in chaos. They come from nations that don't really care about the people. And so America continues to be that bright beacon of hope. But what's happening is, because the border has been open for the last 3 years with no checks and balances, that beacon is not as shiny as it used to be. And so the mindset that happened with the progressive leaders that, you know what, it's okay, be who you are, don't worry about anybody challenging you or questioning you, and the police are bad in every community. When they started to demonize the police department, all of our communities started to feel this safety issue. And now that they're here, it's just growing. And so we must, and I believe President Trump will, he's going to send a strong message that not in America, we're going to deport you, and we're not going to tolerate it. This is how you eliminate that criminal mindset from any community. And we've done it before. We do it to our own citizens. You know, we don't just think it's illegal immigrants. If this was a gang that was American base, they would all be arrested. You know, but right now, because they are illegal immigrants and they're under the amnesty, everybody's a little careful as to how aggressive do we go after these people.
Yeah, and that's also an interesting thing that you say, because some people believe illegal immigrants are, you know, criminals, or because in Venezuela there's also this situation of communism regime that people want to escape. So it's such a delicate issue to try to put them all in a bag, or even to put Latinos in just like, you know, this bag of just illegal immigration. And I think, how can we get into a point where, you know, all of these things are considered, but at the same time America is protecting their borders?
Look, I think just like the Hispanic community, I believe because they came out to vote and they voted for the first time for a Republican president. I'm a firm believer, if it wasn't for the Hispanic American vote, we would not have a change in the administration. And so our values are about family, faith, and freedom. And so it's up to the Hispanic community leaders to stand up and tell our community, It's wrong for them to be here. We support these criminals to be deported. We're not talking about hard-working individuals. We're talking about the criminal element that are here to destroy not only our reputation, but to destroy our ability to be accepted into society and be able to feel that we can integrate into what America is all about. I think it's going to take that across the entire nation. I think LULAC and La Raza and all those big organizations need to stand up and say, look, we want you to self-police us as well, and we want to self-police. So all those criminals that are here selling drugs to our kids, selling our kids to sex trafficking and so forth, they need to go. I think when we start doing that alongside with what President Trump wants to do, you will see a shift in the mindset of America.
Congressman Lopez, is there anything else you would like to add, or even like a message that you'd like to say to the Hispanic community or people in Colorado about this topic?
Definitely. You know what? For all the Hispanic community here in America, let me just say, this is a historical moment for us. We have an opportunity, we just expressed it. We're growing in political influence. We're growing in political, economic influence. It is time for us to sit at the tables. It's time for us to step forward and bring our ideas and bring what we believe are important in our values. Our values are the same values that made America the great country that it is today. Let's just make sure our voices are being heard, and let's make sure we stand tall when it comes to protecting our communities.
Congressman Lopez, it was a pleasure to have you again here in Opinión Pública, and hope to see you very soon.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being with you.
Good luck with your future endeavors.
Thank you.